Hello, this is Georgina Rose, part-time esoteric content creator and part-time Center of Pestilence, and welcome back to the Darling YouTube channel. This is a channel where we discuss magic, mysticism, religion, the occult, and everything on the fringes of esoterica. And welcome back to another video. This video is part of my Occult 101 series, which is basically the biggest thing that we do on this channel. We talk about big esoteric concepts, traditions, and paradigms, and give a short little beginner-friendly introduction to them that can be used as a springboard to go into further research. And in this video, we're going to be talking about astral projection. Astral projection is one of the first occult concepts that I personally encountered. I remember being very young and going on online forums and discovering what astral projection is. I remember very distinctly, I read, it was probably like a WikiHow article or something, where it told me how to astrally project. And I was really frustrated because I was not having any success with it. I remember I tried this again and again and again, and I wasn't getting it. And I think that was because I didn't understand the depth of what astral projection is. And I honestly, even if I had done it, I wouldn't have known why I was doing it to begin with. But now that I've been doing the occult for quite a number of years, it actually makes a lot of sense. And I do think that it is an important skill. So astral projection is one of those things that some people think of as sort of adjacent to the occult, but in my opinion should be included in it entirely because there are a wide variety of things that you can do with it, and many traditions sort of require it. So before we explain how to actually do astral projection, which I will be doing at the end of the video, so we're going to be getting a little bit more practical than I tend to go, I want to explain things that you need to know to even get close to being able to do it. And that would be, what are you manipulating when you astrally project? What are you projecting into the astral, and what even is the astral? So the first thing to establish is the body of light. There's a bunch of terms for this in different traditions, but because I'm a Thelemite, body of light is what I am most familiar with. But I think the closest parallel in mainstream spirituality would be like the aura, vaguely, kind of. But to explain what the body of light is, whenever you've meditated, if you've ever done a visualization exercise, you've closed your eyes, you're picturing, say, a triangle in front of you, and you're breathing in and out. And as you breathe in and out, you picture sort of a thin layer around your body expanding and contracting. That is the body of light. The body of light is a subtle body that exists sort of around you. And through controlling that and knowing how to work with that, you can get a lot of magic done. If you do, say, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, a foundational ceremonial magic ritual, what you do is you sort of call spirits around you, but on top of that, you have to visualize a certain colored light while you draw the pentagrams. And that is manipulating the body of light, even though it is not as intense as astral projection. So basically, the body of light is the subtle thing that exists around you. Aleister Crowley wrote about this pretty extensively because to do all these things using visualization and interacting with spirits, you need to be able to control the body of light. Though astral projection is only one way to actually deal with the body of light, he argued that things like yoga and whatnot also had important aspects of how to deal with it. But astral projection was definitely involved. So when you astrally project, what even happens, right? I think everyone is so focused on the whole I can leave my body thing that they forget, why am I doing it? Where am I going? So I think the most common understanding of astral projection is what is known as remote viewing. Remote viewing is basically when you astrally project and you go into a physical, real location and visualize it. The CIA, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a big fan of the CIA. I don't really like when people bring up weird shit the CIA did as proof that magic is real, but the CIA actually did a lot of testing on this during the Cold War and tried to have remote viewing spies astral project into various government buildings and then report back to them. And they actually seriously consider remote viewing. If you look at those sort of records and the results of those experiments, they are kind of just neutral. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But regardless, remote viewing is when you can leave your body and look at other people, look around your room. I find remote viewing is pretty hard, but I've had some success with it. I'm not able to go into government buildings and be a hacker man and win the Cold War, but I've been able to sort of find things in my apartment that I couldn't see. I've been able to go a little ways, but it is tricky. Remote viewing is something you really need to work up to. And if you want to get into remote viewing, I would suggest actually testing yourself. like maybe intentionally lose a belonging and try to find it with remote viewing, and then in person try to see if it's actually there. But remote viewing is only one thing you can do. Obviously, it's one of the flashier ones, but there's a lot more potential that astral projection has. Now we're going to turn gears entirely into traditional witchcraft. If you're into witchcraft, you're going to understand that an important concept within really any traditional witchcraft tradition is the idea of transgression. This can be done in a wide variety of ways, but the ultimate act of transgression is to leave the body. A big concept in traditional witchcraft is the witch's sabbat, which is essentially where a bunch of people who are practitioners gather together on this mountain in Britain and do all sorts of ritualistic things. This people do a lot of things to achieve, and when people do actually achieve it, it's typically done through astral projection or dream work. So what someone will do is they will astral project and they will visualize all this stuff and go there and then commit the rites. They don't do it physically. And in a lot of the historic records, the way that this was done is a person would put flying ointment, which is a hallucinogenic ointment made out of various herbs, on themselves and then astrally project to the place using the hallucinogenic herbs. As we think about the idea of using entheogens for astral projection, as I think that's pretty relevant, you see people using things like mugwort, blue lotus, and then harder things like say datura or belladonna. My view on entheogens, and it's been pretty consistent as long as I've been an occultist, is that they can have some use, but the problem is they're very easy to become a crutch, and at that point it's actually a problem. So I would suggest learning to astral project without these substances helping you. If you really need them, that's okay, but please be very, very careful, and I personally would not highly recommend them, though they are absolutely an option. I find things like mugwort and whatnot are better for dream work anyways. So as you can tell with those two examples, it can be as within the material plane or in that sort of higher plane where it blends with dreams, depending on what you are doing. Which, interestingly, one of the big theories for what the astral plane even is that it's the spira of Yesod. So I made an entire video talking about the Kabbalistic spears, but basically it's an idea that there are various spears that emanate downwards from God, and those different spheres can be interacted with in different ways, and that dreaming and astral projection and whatnot do all exist on the sphere of Yesod, which is right above where we are at any given moment on the material plane. As well, in some more New Age interpretations, the astral plane is like right above us. They will draw like a four-fold chart, and they'll put the astral like right above the material. So basically, it's what's right beyond us. But through astral projection, you can also explore the material plane in interesting ways. Now, let's get to the juicy part. How do we actually astrally project? So this is our little tutorial. Obviously, I can't film myself doing it because it would be the most boring video ever. It would literally just be a video of me laying in my bed for like 2 hours. And I don't think you guys want to watch that unless you're a weirdo, I guess. In which case, I don't want to know that you want to watch that. So the first thing that you're going to need to do to astrally project is concentrate. Concentration is one of the most essential skills in all forms of mysticism. You need to be able to use your focus. In modernity, because of the rise of social media and getting everything right at our fingertips, a lot of people lack focus. I find that I've really struggled with it because I spend too much time online, and so my focus has been really cut short, and that has actually harmed me in a mystical way. So, first thing you need to do is to turn off all distractions. Turn off your computer, turn off your phone, and plug them across the room. There are different theories on what time of day is best for astral projection. For me, I like to do it when I'm tired but not sleepy. So when I'm physically tired but my mind is still awake is, for me, the optimum time to astral project. But that does run the risk of falling asleep, which you don't want to fall asleep while you're trying to astrally project. So if you are someone who falls asleep a little bit easier, many suggest doing it right in the morning after you've woken up. For me personally, I am way more likely to pass out when I've just woken up versus when I'm about to go to sleep. So for that, you really just need to experiment. There's no right or wrong way. Then you're gonna need to close your eyes and get still. Astral projection requires stillness. For what I will do is I will lie in bed completely still for as long as I can to get into the right state of mind. You don't need to be laying down. I just find laying down works better. You can be sitting, but you need to be completely still. A note of caution though, laying completely still in bed for extended periods of time does run the risk of sleep paralysis. I noticed that when I got more into astral projection, I was having sleep paralysis more consistently, which was very uncomfortable. I actually ended up sort of talking to a doctor about it, and they told me they didn't really know what to tell me. They're like, okay, So be aware of that. Sleep paralysis is not something we want. It is not an optimal situation, but it does sometimes happen when you're dealing with this stuff, so be careful. I find that the avoiding when my body is super tired thing helps me avoid sleep paralysis. I haven't had sleep paralysis in a number of years. And when I was having sleep paralysis, I never like saw sleep paralysis demons or something. So just an important word of caution there. And then you're going to want to pick a method. So there are a couple methods of astral projection that are popular. For me, I have sort of a hybrid one that I've made based on a few methods, but I'm going to start with the most popular one, and that would be what they call the rope method. So what you'll do is you will lay on your back, you'll lay, be still, and then you'll visualize a rope falling from above, and slowly but surely you will visualize your body of light creaking out of your body, moving one little ligament at a time. Like say you lift a finger, then you lift your hand, then you lift your wrist, then your arm, then your upper arm, and whatever, and you go very, very slowly. Then you grab the rope and you visualize your spirit being pulled out of your body, moving upwards, and then you continue visualizing the rope moving to wherever your sort of destination is. I find this is pretty effective. I do it slightly differently, but this is a good method. My personal method, so here's some UPG time, is that I will lay there and I will visualize, much like that creeping thing, but I'll visualize like an inch of my body moving upwards. So I'll just visualize it leaving my body, like my body's here, like do, 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 but just my spirit floating, just very, very slowly. This takes me a long time. So I will spend like 30 minutes meditating and laying still, and then do this over the course of like 20 minutes up. And then once you're out, you can kind of move around pretty freely. But astral projection takes time. As well, it takes a lot of discipline. You're not going to be able to astral project consistently every single time the first few times you do it. You need to do it consistently. You don't need to do it nightly because that's a little bit too much of a commitment for many people, because, you know, a lot of people even struggle to get daily rituals, which I have a video on daily rituals. I think they're very, very important. But for astral projection, you don't need to do it every single day. You just need to do it regularly. The first few times you're not going to be able to successfully do it unless you are an outlier. And of course, outliers happen, but you're typically going to have to practice this for a long time. And as well, you're going to have days where I'll have this like twitch and it'll kind of throw me out of everything. Like my arm, I'll move it or I'll sneeze and then I'll have to restart and I'll be really annoyed and then kind of give up on it. That's okay. Even when you're able to successfully astral project, you're going to have times when it's not as great or you sort of struggle with it a little bit more. This is normal. Learning this type of stuff is hard and it takes consistently. There's another method known as like the door method. I don't like this one, but for some people it works, where they'll like visualize a door and they'll like visualize themselves turning the handle and then pull it open and then like walk through it. Like their body's here, door here, they reach up, they grab it, and then they like walk. I struggle with this one. I tried it, I couldn't make it work, but I know people who have made this one work. So with astral projection, you're really gonna need to experiment and see what works for you as an individual. And then after you're done astrally projecting, don't go immediately to sleep. Take out a journal and write everything you experience down. Much like when it comes to dreams, you're going to need to take a journal to help recall. Dream recall, as we all know, is something that's hard to do, and most of the time you only remember your dreams as clearly as possible the second you wake up. So you're gonna wanna jot all this down right after you're done astrally projecting. So keep logs and see how it evolves. I find that it does get easier with time, and interpretation of this stuff gets easier with time. The astral, much like dreams, are kind of liminal. They're not exactly how the mundane world works unless you are attempting something like remote viewing. And so it's a little bit of a different experience. There are even some people that theorize that the astral and dreaming are very similar, as they are both part of Yesod. So there's a lot of theories. Some people even argue that astral projection is just a more advanced form of lucid dreaming. I disagree with this, but that is a take that some people have. People have a lot of different theories on the astral, especially depending on tradition and culture. To astral project, it's not that hard. It's just about discipline. There's a really good quote that mysticism is the child of discipline and devotion, and that really, really applies here. To learn to astral project, here's your little checklist. Learn to visualize, do some visualization exercises, learn to focus, which that skill will universally help you in all occult practices, and then pick your method and do it consistently. And if you find a method doesn't work for you, then switch it. But I would give each method a couple weeks before moving to a different one, unless you immediately are like, fuck this, I hate this method, in which case, skip that one and move to a different method. So I hope this has helped. Astral projection is something that, for me, took some time to pick up on. I find that it, much like scrying, is something that really takes practice. After all, practice does make perfect. So I hope these methods have helped you. I hope this information has helped you. And I wish you luck. Comment below your personal astral projection stories or experiences. I'd love to see them. If you want to find more of me, I'm on pretty much every social media platform. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm here on YouTube. I'm on Telegram. I'm all the places. I also use the podcast Magnolias and Magic, which is a commentary podcast, so it's less me teaching and more me commentating on issues in the occult community. So if you like commentary, I think that would really, really interest you. And if you want to support me, you can join my Patreon. You get extra videos every month, and you get everything about a week or more in advance. I've been posting my early access like really far in advance recently, so you get all that soon. And you can also ask me questions. And if you're a high enough tier, you can have meetings with me once a month where I explain occult concepts to you, or I give you sort of personal advice, because it's really hard for me to give personal advice if I don't actually like sit down with you and talk to you for a relatively extended period of time. So like, comment, subscribe, and if you subscribe for 93 days, you'll meet your holy guardian angel, and you never need to know what an astral projection is. All right.